Okay, well, thank you very much. Firstly, I'd like to thank you, Isobel, for your contribution to the workshop in Bristol. I thought it was a really successful day and I really enjoyed it. And thank you again for agreeing to be interviewed this morning. So we're just going to do a short interview. Can I first just ask you to introduce yourself and talk a little bit perhaps about your career history and your responsibilities as CEO of Alive Activities?
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Andrew, for inviting me. It's brilliant to be able to share what we do as an organisation. So I'm Isobel Jones. I'm the CEO of the charity Alive. I've been with Alive 10 years now, and it's an absolute privilege to do what we do and to lead an incredible organisation. I've been CEO for nearly 5 years, and I started work with Alive just 2 days a week. Just for a couple of months, just bringing old and young people together as part of an intergenerational work. And I absolutely loved it and didn't want to leave. And thankfully, my role has kind of progressed, and we've been able to grow the charity and be able to increase the amount of work that we've done over the last 10 years. And it's an absolute privilege really to be able to lead an organisation with some fantastic staff with real passion for improving the lives of older people. I've always been around old people. My grandparents have been very important to me. They've all had dementia. All my grandparents, my husband's grandparents, all went into care homes. So I've lived the experience of being a carer and being kind of watching my grandparents grow, and sort of learning how to look after them, learning how to learn from them, and also have a lot of fun. And I learned what was good care and what was bad care. So my background as well is that I was in advertising and marketing, working for agencies, but actually wanted to do a lot more to make a difference. And so I did lots of charity work in the community, and then as a result of that was then able to come and work for Alive. So it's been fantastic to be able to bring my kind of business skills and with my passion and my commitment. And yeah, we just absolutely love what we do at Alive, and it's great to be able to bring such a kind of impact to people's lives.
Thank you. And I think it does, doesn't it? It really does change lives and it improves the lives of older people considerably. I was reviewing your website the other day and I was really impressed by the sheer number of people that you've got employed. It's quite a significant organisation now in the Southwest, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And, we started 15 years ago. It's our 15th anniversary this year. We started just by one man who had a real vision to change the lives of older people. His mother-in-law went into a care home. And again, she was someone who actually, prior going into a care home, didn't have a TV and would be outside. And what he felt, the care and the kind of I suppose the activity that she received wasn't acceptable. And so he went away and found, well, being part in the care home, he found he had this amazing gift with older people and he wanted to make a difference. So he went away and trained as an activity coordinator. And so our work has always been within care homes. And over the years, we've kind of developed and changed that. But arts have always played a huge impact in what we've done by delivering sessions in care homes. We've brought music, art, gardening. We use anything to reach older people and enable them to be able to share their stories and their history and their passions and actually learn and experience more. And we've developed a lot more in the community as well. So as well as care homes, we're delivering in gardens. We're working with hospitals now. We've got our dementia meeting centres, and we've got some incredible creative projects, including one that we're teaching older people how to brew beer, and which is called the Hoppiness Project, which we love. It's
Sounds
brilliant.
great.
Oh, it's great fun. So part of the work that we do is to bring a lot of joy and to be as creative as we can in improving the lives of older people.
Do you find it hard to fund the activities you do?
Yes.
I know it is a challenge all over, isn't it, really?
It's the biggest challenge that we have is funding. With a charity like ours, we have what we call unrestricted and restricted funding. So restricted funding isn't so much of an issue because that will run project by project. But for us, it's the unrestricted, which will pay for things like our overheads, and my fundraising manager's salary, my salary, things like that. And funders love the creative projects that we come up with. They love the innovation and the kind of desire to push things forward. But when they work, it's really hard to keep that funding as well, because they're perceived to be kind of not so innovative anymore, but actually they are changing lives on a daily basis. so it's a real struggle, and it's, you know, one of the things that keeps me up at night actually is that funding, because I do have an incredible staff team, and it's really important for me to keep those and to make sure that they, you know, that they're supported in the right way, we have the right level of training, because, you know, we're a charity but we are a business, and a lot of people don't understand that. So yeah,
Yes, I
funding.
guess you have to see yourself in those sort of terms, don't you?
Yes,
You have
we
to
do.
see yourself in that way if you're to succeed and have a long-term future. And you seem to be doing extremely well with that. I'm sure it is a challenge, but it's
Yeah,
it looks really good. It looks
thank
very
you.
successful.
Thank you. Yeah.
Can I ask you a little bit about the philosophy that underpins what you do? Because
Yeah,
you know, you mentioned earlier
absolutely.
you did a really interesting PowerPoint at the workshop going through the various things that you were doing.
Yeah. So it's our philosophy. It's based around, we're absolutely passionate about providing person-centered, engaged activity. But and that, you know, the incorporates that brings people into the activity. But there's lots of things that we feel that are really important to the activity that we provide. Firstly, it's that it's relationship based. And we talked a lot about that at the day. And for me, it's about having something that can create a relationship between the carer or the care staff and the individual that's part of the activity. Within the PowerPoint, I had lots of lovely pictures, and one of them was Lily, and she had the most amazing smile on her face. And she was told that actually in that photo that the funding was there to be able to continue the intergenerational work that she loved, the children coming in from the local school. That was her highlight of the week. And Sue, who's the manager, knew how much she loved Lily, and she was holding Lily's hand and just had a bigger smile as much as Lily did. And you could see that relationship, that the activity, knowing that they were providing activity that Lily absolutely loved, and it would give her that kind of energy and that and just that joy. So that, yeah, that just shows the importance of the relationship, that actually Sue also knew Lily and knew what she wanted. It's also important to us that it creates a community, that it's community based, and community can mean a number of things. That community might be across a care home. It might be that actually what we're doing is we're not just working on the dementia wing. We're not, as they, you know, a lot of care homes call it. Actually, what we're trying to do is create a community and ensure that people are working together, that care staff are sitting and enjoying and having that joy and that fun with the older people that they're caring for. So it creates a different kind of relationship. We also try and bring schools together. For us, that's really important, that a care home isn't just somewhere where the door shuts, that actually community comes in, and also a care home is very welcoming to the community outside, that actually their doors are open and that they're very willing for people to come in and not worry. And I think, you know, COVID has been a real problem with that. In actually, we found a lot of doors were shut, and it's been quite hard to get those doors open again. But we're getting there, and people are getting a lot more confident in that. Our activity needs to be creative, and for us, that creativity is something we've always ensured it's right at the centre. And creativity is very different for lots of people. You know, for some it might be dance, it might be art, it might be gardening, it might be storytelling. It's important that people feel that they're being creative within that. And, you know, and for example, with our Happiness project, you know, people are planting, then they're brewing, and they're creating a whole kind of project, and then drinking at the end of it. And it's, you know, it just shows what creativity can be. And we like to think outside the box, because what we want to do as well is we want to try and push the boundaries to ensure that older people aren't that they're not seen as people who don't want to do things or who can't do things, and also not treat them as children. And for us, that's really important, that actually they should be drinking if they want to, they should be going out if they want to, and that's really important, that their wishes and their desires are heard. The activity also has to be appropriate and relevant. Obviously, within a care home, you might get a real range of people with different needs. So it's absolutely essential that, you know, a sensory activity where we might be playing with, you know, with smells and with touch and with scarves and lots of really tactile things. That's really appropriate for people who've got more advanced dementia, but possibly for people who are still more cognitively able, that isn't appropriate. So, and it's ensuring that that level of activity changes as the person's journey changes. And it's also, you know, we love to co-produce. We want older people's voices to be heard within the activities that we're doing. And that might be beforehand. It might be giving someone an opportunity to fill out a questionnaire and pop it in a box, which we do quite often. And so it could be that the family are then helping and supporting the older person to think about what they want to do. And it may be that actually on the day that they don't want to take part, and actually that choice is really important. And, you know, we'll often find we'll go in with a plan for an activity, and someone might mention something and say, actually, I want to talk about my holiday in Scarborough 40 years ago. And we'll drop it and we'll go it. And it would just be, the conversation flows, and it's incredible what you can do when you hear and you respond. We also talk about the activity being individualized as well. And that's important because we need to know the individual. We need to know what kind of activity they want to do and what kind of arts they're interested in. Because someone might have a, you know, a really obscure, for example, really obscure music taste. And actually for them, it's important for them to go to a concert or to have someone coming in. And actually, you know, they might have an incredible talent in playing that music. So we need to know those individuals and provide the activity that's right for them. And it could be that sometimes we do those on a one-to-one basis as well. And that's just as important. Someone might be not able to get out of bed, but they can still, you know, they could still listen to music. They can still take part in an art activity. They can still, you know, they might be able to watch the theatre online. It doesn't matter. It's, you know, we still need to make sure that just because a person can't make a group activity, that they're included as well. And often, especially with co-production, is people don't necessarily want to talk in a group either, that they're often a lot more open when it's a one-to-one, and you get some fantastic stories that they're not always willing to share. So that's brilliant. Also, it's inclusive. We feel that, you know, just someone in a care home, they've got a wider family as well that's often not included in that activity, and that's really important. You're talking, you know, someone might have a husband or a wife at home who actually doesn't always see their loved one taking part in an activity anymore. And, you know, some things that we've organised, some of the projects we've done is we've done something called a washing line. And as part of that, one of the gentlemen said, I want to come and have dinner with my wife on our own. We never do. And so, you know, they decorated the dining room. We had 2 chefs competing locally to see who was actually going to cook them a meal. And, you know, there wasn't a dry eye in the house at all with that one. And so it's really important that we think about that wider community, and actually, do we, you know, can we include family? Can we include friends within that activity or the arts that we're doing? And it's so important to us that the activity that we're doing brings joy. And joy is something we often forget, especially as we age. We can still be joyful. We can still be playful. And someone living with dementia, you know, they might not remember the activity, but they will remember how it made them feel. So that joy can last a lot longer than we actually believe it can. And it's also important for it to be purposeful. A lot of people like something to do. They like to have that outcome. So, for example, with our gardening, all the kind of creative things we do with the gardening, people do, it's that purpose of being able to produce vegetables at the end of it, or to, you know, to produce a collage with, you know, with some of the youngsters. And it's really important that it feels that it has got that purpose and that outcome. We also like things to be educational, and it's not just us educating older people. More often than not, it's the other way around, and it's giving older people a voice to be able to tell us. And when we do a lot of co-production, we often have lots of different kind of activities out on the table, lots of different objects, so that they can talk to us about them. And actually, there was one where a gentleman picked up, well, we weren't quite sure what it was. We'd got it in a car boot sale, and it was a fishing float. And he explained to us what was involved in it and how you use it. And so he talked to us for about 20 minutes about fishing and what was involved. So he was really sharing his knowledge, and he was so creative about it. And then what we did do on the back of that was we then took him fishing, and we then enabled him. So we empowered him. So empowering is really important to us in terms of activity, that actually, you know, if the person that's involved wants to lead it, we'd love them to do it, and they want to lead it. So yeah, so empowering is really important. So that kind of sums up my
Thank you. Yeah, no, fantastic. It's a whole range of really, really interesting topics. One of the things that particularly struck me was joy. And I think joy has to underpin the majority of it, doesn't it? You've got to feel joy. And one of the things that we recently created a film. Well, the people in the care home shot a film with us, and this is Princess House, just south of Sunderland. And one of the things the care staff there said during COVID was that the joy's gone out of the place.
Yeah.
And I think that was so telling, that she felt that the joy which was normally there through all these sort of activities that they were undertaking had really gone, because the residents were confined to their rooms.
Yeah.
Sort of most of the time. So that was obviously quite a difficult period. To reintroducing that sort of pleasure, that joyfulness is so important, I think.
Absolutely. And I think it's, it's so important for staff to see it as well, and for them to experience it, because it's a tough job, and if, if care staff can feel that joy and see the smiles that they're, they're giving to someone, it just makes your job, I suppose, so much worthwhile, I think, really. So.
No, I agree completely. And it must be, as you say, it's a hard job, and it's normally done by people who are not paid a great deal, but have enormous responsibility. For the well-being and the care of older people, their residents.
Absolutely.
One of the things that we had during the sort of workshop in Bristol was a talk from the Chinese community, sort of representatives, and I thought it was really interesting. And one of the things I was wondering about is whether we could use the arts to perhaps directly address some of the issues that they brought up. So they brought up a number of things like awareness of and dementia diagnosis, cultural barriers, language barriers, lack of knowledge about the care home system, and worries about sort of inequality of services, or whether they were actually getting a crack of the whip. And these are very, very understandable sort of concerns. Do you think you could use the arts directly to address some of these issues? And I know it might be a big ask, and it's not what we have traditionally done. So it may just be too hard to do. But I was wondering about your response to that question.
I don't think it has been done, but I think it should be done. And I think we do need to think about that in a different way. I think, especially in terms of cultural barriers, I think, we need to incorporate other cultures in our arts, in the way that we deliver. And very often I know care homes will do, things on Chinese New Year and things like that, which is a start, but it's only just a start. So we need to really look at how to use that in a wider basis, I think. I think potentially, in terms of sort of knowledge about the care home system, again, I think we could do that. And I think, we need to really get alongside the communities, I think, in a lot more, in a better way, rather than just producing factual booklets. We need to be a lot more creative. And kind of, I suppose, that worries about the inequality, I think, with interviews and kind of, and probably using art and those kind of, I suppose, doing it in a very different way. So
you could almost use creativity, couldn't you, to address some sorts of issues?
Yeah, we haven't done at all, and it's about talking to the communities of working out what the best way is to reach their communities as well, because each community is very creative in different ways, and so we'd need to do that. But I think we can, and we haven't, and I think probably we've been frightened not to do it. But I think working closely with the leaders in the communities, I think we can do, and I think they'd absolutely embrace it, particularly if we're looking to support.
Yeah, so that sounds really good. I mean, because I noticed that the way that the speakers spoke about the arts, it was in a way that was sort of very positive and very good, but not one, I think, that they had really considered as a way to address some of these sort of problems.
And actually, as a result of that day, because obviously Nicola from my team spoke about the power of music, she actually went to the Chinese Community Wellbeing Society and actually presented on music, and so they talked about it. So they're now looking at how they, within their dementia group, how they can really embrace music and use it more. So it's been a real positive impact as a result of that day.
Well, that's really good. Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed it. It was fantastic. I didn't know how it was going to turn out. I had no idea at all, but I was, I really enjoyed it, and to hear that as being an outcome of the day is really very encouraging for me. So, do you think you could use the arts in political campaigning? And again, is this like a sort of a too much of a long shot, or I don't know. I don't know whether it would work or not. There's some ways you can see it.
But I think we could probably try, couldn't we? And I think we've got to, because I also think, if we used older people, we used, the art that they produced, their creativity, actually, we can show people that aging and dementia people still can achieve. But actually what we need to do is, I suppose, is kind of support people in this kind of way and increase that level of support. And it's about giving people a voice. It's saying, you know, this is what I can do. Don't write me off. You know, this is what I'm capable of doing, and this is what I want to do. So
And this is what I think. This is the way I think society should change.
absolutely.
As well, I guess.
I think we should. I don't, again, as you said, I don't think we have done. And probably it could be a lack of funding. It could be, you know, quite possibly. But I think we do need to look at that. And particularly with dementia at the moment is not so. It's not on the national kind of priorities, and it needs to be. And it will only increase. So actually, it's really important that we try and use every avenue that we can.
Yeah, I agree completely. If I sort of walk around Newcastle, there are very few people you actually come across who you would suspect have dementia.
Yeah.
And there's no reason why they shouldn't be out and about more. They don't have to be locked in a care home. Okay, you need more resources to take people around, but the more people like that are not locked away, the more they're likely to be accepted by broader society.
Absolutely.
So that can only be a good thing. I think even if you see someone on the metro here in Newcastle, you know, just interacting with them in a very sort of simple way, it would still be a very, very positive experience, I think, for people.
Absolutely. And I think people forget that actually, you know, creativity, music, you know, when your dementia progresses, you know, music and rhythm is one of the last things that will remain with you. And it's important that we remember that. But, you know, people are still very creative. They're still very joyful despite a dementia diagnosis. And actually, we need to embrace that and give people as much art and creativity and joy as we possibly can.
Absolutely. Creativity doesn't seem to go. You may have other losses, but you keep your creativity. Or so it seems. So that, you know,
No,
it's a
I
very,
think
very
so.
positive thing. Very positive thing.
Absolutely. And what's lovely about the arts is that, you know, people think they can't do something, or they think they're not able to do it. You know, we've had so many sessions with our dementia groups where people have said, I can't paint anymore. I can't use that sewing machine anymore. We sit down very patiently with them and they do it. And the joy that they have and that sense of accomplishment when they are able to do something. And very often they'll go back home and carry on doing it at home. And it's fantastic to see.
That's fantastic. We had an exhibition at the Shipley Art Gallery. Well, not us directly, but we engaged with it, called Knitted Lives that Equal Arts were part of. And a colleague and I took a group there, and there was an older lady there who was in a wheelchair. And she was obviously a great knitter when she was younger, but she'd given her needles away when she'd moved into the care home. And actually in the display, there were some needles and some wool, inviting you to have a go if you had the skills, which obviously I don't, unfortunately. And she took these needles up and the needles flashed. You know what it's like when you see someone who's a fantastic knitter, and you couldn't visually follow it. So she had all those skills and they were all still there. And she went back to the care home and they actually set up a knitting group in the care home as a result of that experience. So it was a very, very positive one for her.
It's
none of those skills have gone. They're all there.
No, they are all there. And, you know, we had one example of a co-production session where someone just picked up a poetry book and started reading poetry. And as a result, on a Tuesday morning, they've got a poetry, and they have a poetry group, and it's led by the older people, not by the art, you know, the arts coordinator or an activity coordinator. So
yeah, it's so easy, isn't it, to underestimate the skills people have. You think they get the label of dementia, or they get the label of somebody who lives in a care home because they can't look after themselves anymore. And for some reason, that makes us all think, and I think I'm as guilty as this as anybody, that they don't have, the original person isn't there and they don't have the skills they had in earlier life. And of course they do, they are still there.
And it's
in the majority of cases anyway, in the majority of cases they are still there.
I know. And it's lovely that people can learn new things as well, and people forget that.
Yeah, of course.
And we've got one gentleman at our allotment who's incredibly creative, and he was a writer, he's a publisher, and actually was responsible for books like Where's Wally, and it was incredible. I met him on World Book Day, and he was never a gardener, but he loves gardening now, and he loves the creativity and the purpose of being able to plant something and pick something and being outside. But for him, words were his creativeness before, and he may have lost his words, but actually he's been able to find something else to fill that creative gap that he's needed.
So that's been possible. It's fantastic, isn't it? Someone's been able to do that. Really good. Fantastic. Thank you. Well, it's been lovely talking to you, and thank you so much for agreeing to be interviewed again. And I'll stop the recording there and we'll put it on the website. So thank you very much.